Uh, well, I don't know where to start from. It's been a privilege, actually, to be here in this very distinguished gathering of you all. And I'm particularly privileged to be, uh, with the Deputy Chief Minister. I have known him. I have had the privilege of attending a couple of special state-level bankers committee meetings and saw as a witness to his very, very dynamic and very hands-on approach on all issues relating to banking, whether it's dealing with commercial banks or it's dealing with the monetary authority, the central bank regulations, dealing with the rural planning credit department, dealing with agriculture, education, whole host of issues, and his very wide-ranging, in fact, knowledge and interest in the micro details of credit availability in the state has been very, very impressive. I'm particularly inspired by his presence here today. I won't take much time. I have a selfish interest. I'm heading the National Housing Bank, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Reserve Bank of India. It's essentially a regulator for the housing finance institutions, and we extend financial support for housing to the housing finance institutions, commercial banks, cooperative sector institutions, agriculture and rural development banks, and in the informal sector, the microfinance institutions. Our domain essentially is housing, both in the formal sector as well as in the informal sector. But the point which I'll try to make here is that on this very broad agenda of financial inclusion and inclusive growth, I would certainly like to project housing as a very big bridge between financial inclusion and inclusive growth. While financial inclusion deals with individuals and the financial services extending to the individuals, inclusive growth, to my mind, is a more aggregate and a macro issue. Starting off from individuals through financial inclusion to the system, sector, and the broader economy through inclusive growth, there is a journey, and we need to look at the sectors, the institutions, the programs which could make this journey very short and which could be smooth, very less painful. Moving from journey from financial inclusion to inclusive growth would essentially mean, when we are talking about financial inclusion, we are in a way trying to promote more inclusive growth. But linkages are not very clear. We need to look at the bigger picture of inclusive growth through financial inclusion. And what I feel is that a sector which has often not been given the due importance, except when the subprime crisis happened, that's housing, has a definite potential to ensure, through the multiplier effects, a sound, sustainable, and stable economic growth. It's been established globally that housing is a major industry which relates with as many as 300 ancillary industries and maybe more. It is, in India, the second largest employment generator after agriculture. It is the third largest in terms of total linkage effect. Every rupee invested in housing adds 78 paise to the GDP. With all this, still in our country, housing debts or mortgage debts today, outstanding, which is about 500,000 crores, about 5 lakh crores, it accounts for only woefully low 7% of the GDP. There is a case, and a definite case, for promoting housing promoting housing finance, and ensuring that the linkages with the housing has with a large number of ancillary industries are fully exploited. For all this to happen, we need policies in place, we need programs, we need schemes, we need products. And in today's times, talking about one institution or one government being able to do everything is wishing too much. And I would think that clearly we have a role cut out to be in partnership with all the stakeholders and maybe broad-base the stakeholding in each sector, whether it's the government, non-government, public-private, formal, informal, both in housing finance as well as housing construction. If we are able to link up or network all these different stakeholders in the most meaningful way, which is a win-win for all these stakeholders, is clearly going to be a winner for the state government and for the country. I am particularly inspired by the new state housing policy which Bihar has actually developed, and it has all the elements of sound financing mechanism, the roles of different institutions, the public-private partnership approach, the role of the cooperative sector. It deals with the government's role on proactively determining the policy agenda, programs, legislations, rules, governance, approvals, land acquisition, building materials technology, and it has laid down a roadmap which to my mind is quite unique as compared to the state housing policies of other state governments. This is something which we would like to take forward in partnership with other institutions, though we have more defined relationship with the financial sector, which is the banks and the housing finance institutions. But our mandate under the NHB Act, which is a statute, is much larger. We know that there is some kind of disconnect between how the financial sector is moving and how the real sectors are moving. There may not always be a step-in-step kind of movement. There could be disconnects in housing particularly, where we have this sector, the domain of the state government totally, while the financial sector, the financial system, which is governed by a set of rules which are looking at the country overall or through the financial sector intervention of the government of India, we need to ensure that there is a bridge between the two, and that's very important. A bridge between how the financial sector moves and the movement or the direction which the housing construction industry is taking. I would just like to highlight a few points here. One is we can't lose sight of the fact that housing, investment in housing will certainly trigger or spur economic growth. If I may quote from the sayings of one of the presentations by the Secretary General of the United Nations, quote, national development plans and policies need to incorporate a broader vision for the housing sector that goes beyond the traditional argument of social need and towards an enhanced contribution of housing to accelerated economic growth, unquote. The short point here is that investment in housing, as is globally recognized, is going to spur economic growth. But how do we make investment in housing more inclusive? That's the challenge. And well, it's the stakeholders, starting from the central government, Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation, Ministry of Urban Development, the state government role, the programs and the schemes that we have, creating an enabling policy for all these stakeholders to perform efficiently in the system is important. Inclusive housing is definitely a challenge. So you're talking about financial inclusion, we're talking about inclusive growth. If we have inclusive housing, which would mean investments in housing with greater focus on low income group, low and middle income group, is going to bring in a lot more stability we often tend to relate investments in housing with real estate and asset price bubble. For regulators, real estate sector or housing is not viewed too much with favor, particularly more investments in housing. But if we disperse, in fact, if the housing growth is spread over a larger segment of the population, particularly the lower income group and the middle income group, who are the consumers, who are the end users, and not investors, they don't have any intent to speculate on property, then we are achieving one, financial inclusion, because housing as an asset is a permanent security, permanent collateral for the person who wants to uplift himself further. So on road to economic development individually, if we are able to facilitate a provision of housing to an individual, say in a middle income or low income group, we have provided him with an asset which is constantly appreciating in value, one, and two, he has the option to connect better with the financial world through this asset value of his. And we talk about collateral, we talk about third party guarantee, etc. But an asset which he has with him, which can be used as a collateral for him to further uplift himself economically through better connectivity with the financial world. So the short point here is that we have to look at the way we can bring about greater investments in housing, which will be clearly a result and outcome of more enabling and supportive policies, both at the central and the state level, both in the financial sector as well as in the construction industry sector. And the investments in housing should not result in speculative price bubble in the real estate sector. And for that, we need to ensure that the credit essentially flows to the consumers, to the end users, people who are houseless or who are living on rent year after year, but who have the aspiration and the ability to borrow, to repay, and to own a house. So in our country, the society is becoming highly aspirational, and we are looking at the data on housing itself. It's clearly there's been a growth of 18 to 19%, if despite good amount of recession in certain sectors of the economy. The housing sector, which is demand-led, essentially and individual-driven, has been growing at 18 to 19%, and this year, 2012-13, we expect the growth to be in the range of about 20%. Banking industry's contribution to housing sector is definitely predominant, and we see two important constituencies in the housing finance market: the commercial banks on the one hand and the housing finance institutions, which are about 55 in number today. The contribution of both have been substantial. It's the aggregate outstanding housing debt to GDP is only 6 to 7%. And across the globe, it's more than 50% in the US, UK it's 45%, Hong Kong is 22%, China it's 12%. For us to reach at least a double-digit figure, the investments in housing have to be still quite enormous. The demand and the supply side of housing are two very important, again, issues. While we are addressing the demand side, where the credit is flowing easily now to the individuals, the supply side, which is the construction, is very difficult to ensure. While we have improved access to the people in all income groups to housing credit from the system, from the formal financial market, we have yet to go a long way in ensuring that corresponding to this demand for housing credit and availability of this housing credit, housing supply also comes forth into the market. That's something which is still found to be a challenge. We are looking at the ways the financial sector can better connect with the construction industry, with the builders. A large number of the state governments, in fact, they have given the space of construction to the private sector, and private sector has to really perform and convince the governments that the policies which have given lot more space to the private sector, they are able to satisfy the public policy, the public program intent of the government. So I leave it at that. There are still many questions to be answered, but as far as the formal housing finance credit is concerned, we have achieved quite a bit, and we expect that even the NPA level in the housing credit is very well contained. The supply side or the construction industry, there has to be a very good sustainable partnership between the state government and the private sector. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for this opportunity.